Welcome to another edition of Fable's End gameplay. Today we're going to be playing Raven versus Scorpion. The first thing we'll do is cut the decks to see who goes first. I reveal a exiled princess. Kwame reveals a shield. He will go first because he gets advantage over the shield. Each of us will draw our 4 cards for our starting hand, and Kwame will begin. Here I am showing my hand to the camera. Kwame begins his retirement by discarding a Genie of the Lamp.
Actually, by the way, as we're playing, if you want to show the camera your hand, you just do that. That's pretty clear. Oh, really? Yeah.
As you can see in his hand, he has a shield, a Master Storyteller, and a Street Rat. He's going to draw back up to 4 because he discarded a card during his retirement. He will add the shield to his Phalanx. He will move into his action step by rushing a Street Rat at my story. I'll take the 1 damage. He then rushes a Master Storyteller. I block with my shield.
Yeah, I figured that was gonna happen. That's fine.
Kwame's going to post his Master Storyteller, and he's going to move into his recovery step.
Okay.
I move into my retirement step, discard 2 cards from my hand, then move into my draw step. I draw until I have 4 cards, and then I draw 1 extra card because I do not have a shield and Kwame has 1. I add a shield to my Phalanx and go immediately to my action step where I will rush a Vampire Hunter at Kwame's story. He will take that 1 damage. Vampire Hunter is going to go into my sideline. I rush the next Vampire Hunter in my hand. Kwame will again take the damage. Vampire Hunter will go into the sideline, and I will post my 3rd Vampire Hunter and move to my recovery. Kwame chooses not to discard anything during his retirement step, moves to his draw step, and draws 3 cards so that his hand is up to 4. He then adds 1 shield to his Phalanx and moves into his action step where he's going to immediately invade with Master Storyteller. Now, after taking a moment, I decide to block with a shield instead of blocking with my Vampire Hunter. Kwame still has cards in his hand. His next attack is probably going to go to my story, but I'm not sure what he wants to do, so I have to be very careful about how I respond. He ends up posting a Master Storyteller and invading. I decide not to block and take the damage. Now, I could have blocked with my Vampire Hunter, but that would have left me open to another attack, and I wasn't sure what he had in his hand. Kwame decides to go to recovery, so he draws a card, removes 1 damage from his story. I don't retire anything and go directly into my draw step. I add a shield to my Phalanx and move into my action step. After some careful decision making, I decide to attack his Master Storyteller with one of my Grave Robbers. This creates an opening for me to break through into his hand with my Vampire Hunter. He shuffles his hand and lays the cards face down for me to choose.
Find out what happens.
I end up revealing a Royal Tigress, which kills my Vampire Hunter and send it to the losses pile. Royal Tigress goes back into his hand. I end up posting a Blood Mistress and deciding whether or not I want to attack with it. Feeling rather cheeky, instead of attacking with my Blood Mistress, I post another Vampire Hunter from my hand.
Makes you think twice nowadays.
Then I march it forward to attack Kwame's hand again.
What is happening? Wait, you were just here.
Again, revealing the cards in his hand. I choose one, I reveal the exact same card, same scenario, and then I am appropriately mocked by Kwame. In Fable's End, it's important to understand the board state. Being too aggressive can net you a short-term gain, but can punish you in the long term. So it's better sometimes to just hold off and not attack. I'm deciding whether or not it's right for me to continue attacking or to pass my turn, and I go to my recovery step, draw my card. I choose not to bury anything because I'm playing Raven. During Kwame's retirement, he retires his Master Storyteller, which is why it's no longer on the front line. He takes a moment to look at his chapters just to see what he has so he can plan for his turn. He's debating as to whether or not he should get rid of something in his hand and just go straight to draw. He does get rid of a card, and now he draws until he has 4 cards in hand. It's likely he doesn't have a shield in hand, so he's deciding which card to place down as a proxy.
Cards in hand?
2.
Cardos.
After some planning, he chooses a card, places it down on his phalanx as a proxy, and moves into his action step.
Yes, we will.
Because I have a card in my rear guard, and I have 2 cards in hand, I have 3 potential blockers. Kwame has 3 cards that he can use to attack with this turn. So he has to be very careful about how he attacks in order to get the most amount of damage in. So right now he's calculating whether or not he thinks he can outmaneuver me by attacking with specific cards in a specific order. He posts Gang of Thieves, which has 4,000 power and advantage against my Blood Mistress. Gang of Thieves also has the ability to discard a card from my hand if it wins a battle. This means that generally whatever I block with is probably going to die, so I'll probably lose a card in hand. This is a really good card for Kwame to have in this moment, because it means I probably am not going to block. The key here is that Kwame doesn't know what's in my hand. If I have a shield and he attacks my story, I can just play the shield and block it, and he doesn't get any advantage from this at all. So one of the reasons why it's taking so long for him is because he's going through all the different possible scenarios. He does end up committing, and he attacks my story for 2 damage, which I can block.
Oof.
But given the consequences, I decide not to, and I just take the damage. And that puts me at 4. So 1 more damage will send my top chapter to the losses pile. Kwame decides to story shift. He rearranges the order of his chapters and takes 1 damage. He then posts a Master Storyteller, uses his Flying Carpet to bring back Gang of Thieves into his hand. He posts a Royal Tigress, which is a 4,000 power stone type unit, and decides not to attack with it, meaning he'll save it for blocking. This is a good move for him because that card could probably kill most of the things that I'm going to throw his way. I draw back up to 4, choose a card in my hand to set down as a proxy shield, and then I move into my action step. I decide to post my Blood Mistress. I then decide to open my chapter, sending 2 -1,000 counters onto Royal Tigress. Now that the Tigress is weakened, I'm going to march my Blood Mistress and attack his story for 2 damage.
You're gonna swing at me for 2 after all of that.
He could block with one of his units to prevent that damage, and he's thinking about whether or not that's going to be a viable move. In the end, he decides not to block, and he will end up taking that story damage, putting him at 3. Seeing that he was afraid to block, I'm going to go ahead and march my second Blood Mistress and invade. If this isn't blocked, Kwame will lose that top chapter. He decides to use his Royal Tigress to block my Blood Mistress. Both of them will die. I could push a little bit further, but after weighing my options, I decide to go to my recovery, close my chapter, draw a card, and bury my Blood Mistress.
All bark after that, huh? That was awfully uneventful, but alright, that's fine.
Kwame decides to retire a card from his hand, go to his draw step, draw until he has 4. He then chooses a card from his hand to add face down onto his phalanx as a proxy.
Let's see what we got.
He then uses Master Storyteller's ability to force me to reveal my hand.
Some terrible options for you.
I reveal my hand to Kwame, and then I very cheekily reveal my hand to the camera to show that my hand is very good,
Of a hand this
and
is.
that Kwame can't do anything.
My stomach.
Because of what was in my hand, Kwame has to reconsider how he wants to attack. Most likely, because Scorpion has weak units, when he attacks, I will block and destroy them. He does drop a Gang of Thieves, though. A Gang of Thieves has a lot of power. He ends up killing my Blood Mistress, and I have to discard a card because of Gang of Thieves' ability.
It's discarded.
That's not the one
Great.
I wanted to get this.
Not the one you wanted.
Kwame is now going to use his Flying Carpet chapter to return his Gang of Thieves to his hand.
Gang of Thieves is doing work for you.
Yeah, it is.
He then drops Gang of Thieves one more time and goes in for a swing to my story for 2 damage. This is an annoying attack because if I block with something, I'll end up discarding a card. I go ahead and take the damage to lose that chapter, even though I didn't want to lose it. Because I don't know what's in his hand, it's safe for me to keep my blockers rather than to lose cards. He posts a Royal Tigress and goes to his recovery step. I go to my retirement. I end up pitching my Spectre of Death because I can't use it just yet. I draw my extra card for having fewer shields. I add a shield, replace a proxy, and then move into my action step. I will post an Abysmal Construct, and then post another Abysmal Construct. Each of those gets 2 + 1,000 counters because of my 2 humans in my losses pile.
Doesn't feel overpowered.
This makes both of them 6,000 power, which is higher than anything Kwame has on the board right now.
No, we didn't get it right the first try.
I check the top chapter of my story to see what I can use. It's nothing that's going to be super useful for me right now.
Was it really?
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't remember. It was like 5,000, I think.
Okay.
It was like 5,000 or something. We didn't get it right the first time,
Oh,
but
Sure.
we tried.
here I'm patting myself on the back. Like, we got it right. Like,
No.
no. We did not.
Oh no.
You, sir, are the.
After some deliberation, I decide to story shift to rearrange the chapters in my story pile. Having chosen an order, I return my chapters to my story pile, and I take 1 damage. I then march my Abysmal Construct to the front line to attack Kwame's Gang of Thieves and kill them. I open my chapter, Hidden Laboratory, search my losses pile for an unburied unit, return it to my hand and take damage equal to its skull value. I choose Vampire Hunter, then I post a Blood Mistress and post that Vampire Hunter, who gets a + 1,000 counter for having 1 buried unit in my losses. I then use my Vampire Hunter to attack my opponent's hand. Kwame has 2 cards in his hand. I choose one and reveal it. It is again Royal Tigress killing my Vampire Hunter.
He keeps getting met
dumb.
with the tiger.
That was stupid.
Feeling rather demoralized, I go to my
He's running
recovery
into
step,
the tiger.
close my chapter, recover 1 damage, draw a card, and choose to bury 1 unit.
No matter what, I love it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Alrighty.
Kwame chooses not to retire anything and goes straight to his draw step,
Let's see.
where he will draw until he has 4 cards in hand.
Dose. Cards in hand?
2.
Dose. Got it.
Kwame chooses a card and adds it to his phalanx.
Yes.
He then activates Master Storyteller's ability,
Let's see what we've got.
and I reveal my hand.
God. Where are your shields? Bro, what's going on here? What's happening? What is happening here? What is happening?
Here are my shields.
Here are my shields.
They
Your
are.
shields are
They're
there.
on the table.
They're on. They're on the table. Got it. Gotcha. Good to know. Good to know. All right.
Kwame posts a Royal Tigress. He then posts a Street Rat, which will allow him to draw an extra card.
What?
You know you do this, right?
I do this.
Yeah, you do
I
that.
do that earlier. I didn't even know. I didn't even realize that.
It's the you'll like put a card set when things are going your way and you're playing out. You'll kind of do the same. You're like, yeah, all right.
I had no idea. You know what's so funny? Like subconsciously, I know I do it, but like when I don't think I've ever been called out on it, like ever, which is hilarious.
I know when things are going your way, when like your turn is doing really, you're like, okay, all right, you do that.
I need to get rid of my tells. Like just.
I do too. I have tells. You know what my tells are. You don't tell me what they are. I tell you what your tells are because I respect you.
Because I respect you. I tell you what your tells are. Sometimes.
He then marches his street rat to attack my story.
I mean, one of us is an honest player. That's all I'm saying. 2, boring. Give me something decent to work with here. How about if
I'm not sure if I want to block this or not. If I do, I will most likely lose a unit or prevent myself from doing something later, so I just take the damage, putting myself at 3-story damage.
What if I told you that I would allow you to do that?
What if I told you, that's fine. That's fine.
No big deal. NBD.
NBD. Gotcha.
This chapter I gotta get rid of. It's annoying. It's like ruining my life. That's why it's so good. That's why it's such a great chapter.
So good. That's exactly why it's so good.
Kwame decides that he will march his master storyteller to attack my story for 3. Because master storyteller's embers are blue, 1 damage would carry over to the next chapter, meaning I would lose a chapter and my next chapter would have 1 damage if I decided not to block.
What else do you have in your hand? That's the question. I can't let that go through. I just can't. That's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. I know.
I march my blood mistress to block the master storyteller.
You'll kill my vampire.
Gonna risk it for the biscuits.
Bring that Royal Tiger Stab killer, then do the next thing with the rook. Come on, let's stop wasting everyone's time. We already know where this is going. We already know where this is going.
All right. Do we though?
Yes, we do.
We do.
Yes, predictable. This story has a predictable
end.
No. No. It has a predictable middle. The second act of this story, kind of boring.
Gotcha.
Kwame is going to post an exiled princess and open his chapter, returning his street rat to his hand, and then posting it to draw another card.
Come on.
So I'm asking, do we know where the story is going?
I mean, that was all predictable, but I am still annoyed.
All right. Stop playing with you.
Kwame marches his street rat to attack my story for 2.
Here, I'm gonna block that.
I rush my abysmal construct to block, and they both end up dying.
Which is what I should have done.
Gotcha. That's what I thought you were gonna do.
No, I should have.
I thought you were gonna do that way earlier.
I even pointed out. I was like, that's gotta.
Kwame, being relentless, marches his exiled princess to attack my story. And I march my other abysmal construct to destroy the exiled princess. Kwame had another copy of Exiled Princess in his hand. He goes and ends up defeating my story. The damage carries over because of the blue embers, so I have 1 damage on my current chapter.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. What are you at?
14.
14. I'm at too high. I'm at 8. All right.
Kwame moves to his recovery step. Because of Exiled Princess's ability, he's able to return it to his hand. He closes his chapter, covers 1 damage,
what a great
buries a unit, and he will draw 1 card.
What a time to be alive, man.
During my retirement, I will move all units on my front line to my sideline.
You and yours.
I draw until I have 4, and then I draw an extra because I have fewer shields.
I'm done. All right, I am done.
We're done.
I then add 1 shield to my phalanx.
This is where
I start my action step by posting
just got turned on.
2 units. Abysmal Construct and Blood Mistress are both going to get plus 1,000 counters because of their abilities and also because of Vampire Overlord.
Okay. What do I want to do here? These are not the chapters that were most useful. You destroyed, so thanks for that. Thank you.
Yeah. Presence of Evil had to go, and I don't know what the next one was, but that had to go too.
That was a Hidden Laboratory.
Oh, Hidden yeah, that really had to go. That's old style grave robber on crack. Like no, that had to go immediately.
I haven't seen a lot of genies, so you're probably there's a chance you have a genie in hand. appreciate.
Really? I kind of like
I go ahead and use Spectre of Death's Unbury ability to give him an overkill counter. He now has overkill. When a unit with overkill defeats another unit, the defeated player will take the top card of their deck and put it into their losses. Because I have a higher skull count than Kwame, I decided to move into my recovery step. I have a pretty good board presence, and it allows me to have a lot of blockers, and I don't want to overextend myself this late in the game because it's really dangerous. I decide that the best option is to pass the turn to Kwame to make it more difficult for him to attack.
Why would I do more when I could do less?
That's why.
And affect the board
just
in a way that benefits me.
Just to say. All right. Golly God. All right.
Kwame retires a card from his hand.
Don't want to do that, but that's fine.
Bye.
Cards in hand?
One.
Kwame chooses a card from his hand and adds it to his phalanx. In Fable's End, as a special action, you can float a shield to enable you an extra open shield, which Kwame will do, so he can post his genie. Normally, after the unit is posted, the floating shield will go into the discard pile. Kwame forgets to do that here, so that's why the shield remains on the table. It is not active, it doesn't do anything for him, it has been used and should be in his discard pile. Kwame uses Genie of the Lamp's special ability, and he unburies one unit from his losses pile. He names a card.
Street Rat.
He then reveals the top 3 cards of his deck.
Nice.
Because Street Rat was revealed, he gets to add it to his hand, and he can put the rest on top of his deck in any order. Kwame posts Gang of Thieves, then he posts a Street Rat, draws a card, and posts an Exiled Princess. Kwame now has a full board of units. This enables him 6 attacks. I have 4 blockers in my rear guard.
Actually, this is going to blow your mind.
In the end, Kwame decides that the best offense is a good defense. So he goes to his recovery step, recovers 1 damage, draws a card, buries a unit.
No, not at all. It's mind blowing to me because I don't know.
During my draw step, I draw until I have 4 cards, and then I draw 1 more because I have 5 shields and Kwame has 6. I show my hand to the camera just so you can see what I have. 2 shields, 2 vampire overlords, and a grave robber.
God, that's funny.
Now, I have a lot of cards to work with here, so I have to be careful about how I make my attacks and what decisions I make. It is possible for me to break through and get some extra skulls in there, but I would be leaving myself very vulnerable, so I have to be very careful. Kwame is currently winning, and he's winning by quite a lot, so if I make a mistake, it can really come back to bite me. I point out to Kwame that he floated this shield last turn and he forgot to put it back. Anytime a shield is floated, as soon as the unit posts, the shield will go into the discard pile. Even though I have 2 shields in hand, I decide to proxy a shield instead. This gives me the flexibility to float shields during my turn to play something large like a vampire overlord. I come out the gate swinging with my Blood Mistress, and hopefully I can hit 2 damage on his story. Something that's really important about this last turn here is that if I pass the turn to Kwame and he has fewer skulls, he can add a 7th shield to his phalanx to end the game. And if he ends the game and he has fewer skulls, he's going to win. So I have to tie the score before I pass the turn. Kwame decides to take that 2 damage.
Wow, I'm kind of shocked you didn't. All right, okay. I'm not going to say anything, but that might have been a misplay on your end.
Of my end. Of my end.
Yes.
Got it. Maybe. We'll see.
I then march my Spectre of Death that has Overkill to deal 3 damage. I'm trying to get rid of that top chapter because it's really annoying. Kwame decides that he's going to block it with his Street Rat, and the Overkill activates, taking the top card and adding it to his losses pile.
Yep.
What is that? Some pathetic number that I can't seem to really do anything about? Cool. Great. Awesome. Okay.
I march my Abysmal Construct, attack the story again for 2 damage.
For 2?
Kwame decides not to block, taking that damage and putting him at 4 damage. I'm purposefully showing the camera my hand because I have 2 big options. I can either post my Vampire Overlord by floating 2 shields, or I can post my Grave Robber. I have to decide which one I want to do. As I stated before, I can't just pass the turn. I have to keep attacking until Kwame has skulls that are equal to mine, because if I just pass the turn, he's going to win. So I'm really taking my time to plan out exactly how I want this to work. This is the part of the game that really rewards creative thinking and strategic planning. Because Kwame has that genie in his rearguard, anything I throw at his story could probably be blocked and killed. That throws more skulls into my losses pile and makes it worse for me. So the most likely strategy that I have is to try to get something into his hand, to try to kill something in his hand. Now this is going to be a little tricky because I'm going to have to do some specific things to make that happen. The first thing I do is I march my Vampire Overlord to attack the story. Now Kwame could block with his genie, but he may not want to risk it because he doesn't know what else I have in my hand. So he'll probably play it safe, and he does, so he marches his Royal Tigress to block that. And Vampire Overlord survives to see another day. Because Royal Tigress was defeated, it opens up another shield on Kwame's Phalanx, which enables me to get a rank 2 unit into his hand. One of the coolest things about Raven is that Raven rewards you for having lots of cards in your losses pile. Vampire Overlord says that if I have 10 or more skulls in my losses, units will post with an extra plus 1000 counter. This is important because it means that I know that whatever I post now will be a little bit stronger, and that might give me the edge in a battle in someone's hand, even if I don't know what they have.
Let me try. Let me see where I can take this, but I think that's game. I'm gonna.
After weighing the options, I decide to post my Grave Robber. He gets a plus 1000 counter from Vampire Overlord, and his ability allows me to pull something from my losses. I then march him forward to attack Kwame's hand.
So what is that?
He reveals an Exiled Princess, and that Exiled Princess is defeated because my Grave Robber has 4000 power and the Exiled Princess has 2. I pick up my chapters and perform a story shift, take 1 damage, open that top chapter, and reveal Forgotten Estate, which enables my units to be protected from his challenges, meaning he cannot attack anything that's on the front line. This is extremely advantageous because it means that all of my units are protected. He's not going to get in some cheap skulls by killing some of my units on the front line. He'll have to get rid of that story first.
Above the 12. Yeah.
All right.
Managed to live 1 more day. But
Kwame chooses not to retire anything. He goes directly into his draw step. He draws until he has 4 cards.
3, 4. All right.
Kwame has 4 proxies on his phalanx, and you'll see him checking each one to make sure he understands what they are. He did draw some shields, so he's going to be able to replace those proxies with those true shields. So he examines each one to make sure he's got the right cards for the turn. Now, one of the things about this turn that's really interesting is that If I did not have my Forgotten Estate open, he'd be able to just directly attack my units and throw a bunch of skulls into my losses. But now he has to maneuver around this chapter, so he has to get rid of it before he can attack my units. So he has to plan very carefully what his next moves are.
Let us do this. Wait.
Pass? Concede? Okay, sounds great.
Never in your life. How many cards do you have here?
I have 4 cards in my hand.
He ends up posting Street Rat and draws a card from its ability.
Alrighty.
Oh my god.
I think you lose.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I lose. I don't think there's any way I could.
But
Even if I'm able to take out everything that you have in your hand.
He then posts a Master Storyteller, and I explain to him I'm probably going to lose. Even if I were able to handle all of his attacks, it seems very unlikely I'll survive this turn.
That's right. You should probably give up.
no.
I think that's the
Kwame
best
uses
option for
Master
right now.
Storyteller's ability
Let's see what's in your hand.
You could
and
walk
forces
away
me to
with your
reveal my
own
hand.
with your dignity.
See what's in your hand. See what's there. See what's there.
I passive-aggressively toss my cards on the table so that he can see them one at a time.
Oh no!
This is tricky for him because that could work out very well
I
for
was
him.
really hoping I would draw until
I only have 2 shields in hand, and he's going to try to get those shields before I can use them to block with. I can't block with the Vampire Overlords in my hand because I do not have enough open shields. So if he can eliminate those shields from my hand, then he can attack my chapter without me being able to do anything.
Shields in hand. We are gonna go in.
So he marches his Master Storyteller up
Bad boy.
in an effort to try to get one of those shields.
50-50 shot.
I shuffle up my hand and present it to him.
My odds are terrible in this game, so.
Pretty
He
good.
reveals a Vampire Overlord,
bad.
which is not the card he wanted. His Storyteller goes to his losses pile.
Which I gotta be very, very careful about now. Because I didn't realize that, yeah, that's right. That was a bad choice on my part, Jesus. That was a bad choice. Why did I do that? Why did I do that again? Explain,
I don't know.
Explain to me why I did that.
Because there was a carrot dangling in front of you, and you're like, I love carrots.
I do love carrots.
And there's a bear trap
It's a carrot or
connected
bear
to that bear trap.
Carrot or bear trap. I love that. Yeah, no. If I was gonna do that, I should have just did that anyway. Grr. Well, I mean, I'll go back down 1. That's fine, but still, that's gonna burn. Oh, because you're down to you're down to 12.
I'm 12.
12, and I'm at 13. No, I'm at 14 because this I buried that one. So I'm at 14. So you just went down 1. It's not gonna matter. Gotcha.
Now he tries a different approach. He marches his Street Rat, and he attacks my story. I let this go.
Gee, I wonder what you're
The reason I don't block it with a shield is because there are potentially worse threats that are going to be on the board, and I don't want to use all of my shields to block what he throws at me now because then it leaves me completely defenseless. As predicted, he uses Flying Carpet to return it to his hand, puts it down one more time, does the same thing. Once again, I choose to take it because I think that there are far worse threats on the board. I haven't lost anything yet. I've just taken 4 damage. Kwame invades with his Royal Tigress for 1 damage.
You sure about that?
I decide to take it so I can still use those shields to block something else.
Locked up sound better.
Now that the chapter is gone, Kwame can start using his units to attack my units on the front line. So he's trying to determine where and when he can attack what unit to maximize the amount of skulls he can get into the losses pile. One attack that will net Kwame easy skulls is if he uses his genie to attack my Vampire Overlord. Kwame does end up marching that genie to attack the Vampire Overlord, setting it to my losses and adding 3 more skulls, putting me at 19. Now, he next tries to use his Gang of Thieves to attack my Blood Mistress, but Blood Mistress has an ability that allows her to not be attacked as long as I have 10 or more skulls in my losses pile. Kwame knows that I have 2 shields in hand and 2 Vampire Overlords. So he's weighing his options as to whether or not he attacks my hand. If he does, he could end the game and win. However, if he hits one of my vampire overlords, then his unit will die, sending more skulls to his losses and actually not helping him end the game. In a very real sense, this next move that Kwame makes will determine whether he wins or whether he passes the turn on to me and gives me a chance to win.
I'm down to this. You're 19.
But you know, no pressure.
I don't want to do this. But, I mean,
It might work.
I don't have a choice though. That's the worst part about this.
You have a choice.
I really don't though.
You do have a choice.
Like, oh my god, what?
It's not a good choice, but it's a choice.
I know the choice that I don't want to do the choice because I'm back at where I started at the beginning of the turn.
Yes. But honestly, it feels.
Now Kwame knows that I have 2 shields in hand and I'm going to block both of these attacks, so he has to attack my hand. He's not sure what he's going to reveal. There's about a 50-50 chance, so we'll see what happens.
I honestly feel like you're just gonna hit it right away.
God, I'm back to square.
Let's see what happens.
I shuffle my hand, he chooses a card revealed, and it's a shield, and he wins the game. Anything else, he probably would have lost or given me another turn.
Oh my god.
Hey, don't click away. Check out the link in the description below. We're this close to getting funded on our Kickstarter, and we're live right now. We could really use your help. So click the link in the description below, go to our Kickstarter page and make a pledge, and then tell a friend, and then tell their friends. And then you don't have to tell any more friends after that. I think 2 is enough. 2 is probably fine.